Is Canada's sovereignty at a crossroads? This is a hypothetical scenario exploring a game-changing shift in our national defense. Imagine if Ottawa bypassed the F-35 for the Swedish Gripen E, a jet that promised a made-in-Canada revolution. With F-35 costs soaring by 46% to a staggering $27.7 billion, we're analyzing whether a mixed fleet is a fiscal masterstroke or a NORAD nightmare. We're diving deep into the $19 billion budget surge, Saab's 100% industrial guarantee, and the high-stakes battle for our Arctic skies. What does this mean for our RCAF and your tax dollars? Let's find out. All right, my friends, let's peel back the layers of this fascinating, high-stakes saga that's captured the attention of every Canadian who cares about our national security and our economic future. You see, the initial headlines, the ones that screamed, "Canada chooses Gripen E, America's worst fear," they hit like a shockwave, didn't they? And I get it. That kind of news, suggesting a NATO ally, a NORAD partner, might turn its back on the F-35. It's sensational. It almost felt too good to be true for some, too controversial for others. But as a seasoned analyst, I looked at those headlines and I thought, hold on a minute. This isn't just about picking a plane. This is about strategic leverage. This is about Canada asserting its position on the global stage. And let me tell you, what we're seeing unfold is far more nuanced, far more Canadian, than any simple binary choice. The truth, as it often is in these complex matters, is far more intricate. We haven't definitively chosen the Gripen E. Not yet. What we're witnessing is an active, unresolved debate within the very heart of the Canadian government. It's a fierce tug-of-war, caught between skyrocketing costs, powerful industrial promises, the bedrock requirements of our military, and, yes, intense pressure from our allies. The fighter jet competition isn't over. In fact, I'd argue it's entered its most critical, most fascinating phase yet, where every option, every strategy, is truly on the table. And this, my fellow Canadians, is where our national pride, our fiscal prudence, and our strategic foresight truly shine. We are not just a passive buyer. We are an active, intelligent player in a global game. Let's talk about the original plan, the one that's been on the books for over a decade. It was simple, elegant even. A full fleet of 88 F-35 Lightning IIs. For years, this was the undisputed future of Allied air forces, a fifth-generation marvel. Our military leadership, from Deputy Minister Stephanie Beck to Lieutenant General Jamie Spicer Blanche, they've been unwavering in their support for this path. They stress the urgent need for a fifth-generation platform to counter the growing threats from nations like Russia and China. This isn't just about keeping up. It's about survival in modern warfare. The F-35, with its stealth capabilities, its near invisibility to enemy radar, offers an unparalleled advantage in hostile airspace. And its real strength, the true marvel, lies in its advanced sensors and data fusion. This jet gathers, processes, and shares battlefield information, turning it into a flying command and control center. For the RCAF, for NORAD, for NATO. Having the same aircraft as the U.S. and many other allies simplifies joint operations, training, and logistics. It ensures that seamless cooperation in any future conflict. This is critical. This is how we protect our borders. This is how we protect our values. But here's where the plot thickens, where the cold, hard numbers start to bite. The path to acquiring those 88 F-35s has been anything but smooth. This program has been plagued by delays, yes, but most significantly, by costs that have rocketed skyward. What was initially estimated at around $19 billion Canadian has now, as of that eye-opening 2024 Auditor General report, ballooned to a staggering $27.7 billion Canadian dollar. And get this, folks, that 46% cost increase since just 2022? That figure doesn't even include essential expenses like weapons packages, new infrastructure, or the long-term sustainment costs that will stretch for decades. Imagine that. This isn't just a bump in the road, it's a seismic shift in our national budget. And for any responsible government, for any prudent Canadian, that triggers intense debate. It forces us to ask tough questions about value for our taxpayers. This financial strain is the primary reason why a seemingly settled decision is now back in flux. The military's argument for fifth-generation capability is undeniably strong. But the economic reality, my friends, is stark. Committing to the full F-35 purchase ties up a massive portion of our defense budget for decades, potentially at the expense of other vital military needs, perhaps even our Navy or our Army. This is the core tension, the classic dilemma. The military's desire for the most advanced technology versus the government's responsibility to manage public finances. It's this very tension that has opened the door for other options to be seriously considered, transforming a done deal into an active, high-stakes national debate about Canada's future in the skies. And this, precisely, is where the Saab Gripen E steps onto the stage, not just as an alternative, but as a compelling challenger, particularly for our forward-thinking government. As the F-35's price tag grew, the appeal of its main competitor became much stronger. The second major option facing Canada is to pivot away from the American jet entirely and purchase a full fleet of Gripens. Now, this would be a radical departure, absolutely. But it comes with a truly compelling set of arguments, primarily centered on cost and, crucially, industrial benefits for our nation. The Gripen E is a highly advanced 4.5-generation fighter known for its sophisticated electronic warfare suite, powerful radar, and ability to carry a wide array of modern weaponry. While it might lack the all-aspect stealth of the F-35, its supporters, and frankly, I find their arguments very persuasive, argue that its performance, combined with its significantly lower acquisition and operational costs, makes it a smarter choice for a country like Canada. It's about smart power, not just brute force. The financial case for the Gripen is undeniably powerful. Saab has consistently marketed the jet as a more affordable solution, not just to buy, but, and this is key, to fly and maintain over its entire service life. For a government facing a potential $27.7 billion Canadian bill for F-35s, the prospect of acquiring a capable fleet for a fraction of the cost is incredibly tempting. And here's why this matters so much to us as Canadians. This isn't just about saving money, my friends. It's about reallocating resources. Choosing the Gripen could free up billions of dollars in the defense budget, funds that could then be used to address other critical gaps in Canada's military. Think about modernizing our Navy, upgrading our Army, investing in cyber defense, or even bolstering our Coast Guard presence in the Arctic. This argument resonates strongly with those of us who believe that overspending on one high-profile project could leave the broader Canadian Armed Forces underfunded and unprepared. We need a balanced force, capable of meeting a spectrum of threats, not just a single, incredibly expensive asset. But beyond the sticker price, and this is where Saab truly threw down the gauntlet, they've sweetened the deal with an absolutely powerful industrial offer. The Swedish company has proposed to assemble, maintain, and upgrade the entire Gripen E fleet right here in Canada. Imagine that, right here. This would be managed by the Gripen for Canada team, a consortium including prominent Canadian aerospace firms like IMP Aerospace and Defense, CAE, and Arkfield Canada. These are Canadian companies, employing Canadian workers, building a critical part of our national defense. Saab has also committed to meeting Canada's 100% guaranteed industrial offset requirements, meaning for every dollar spent on the jets, $1 of economic activity must be generated in Canada. This promise of high-tech jobs, of domestic industrial growth, this is a game-changer in the political arena. It transforms the fighter jet decision into a major economic one, a national industrial strategy. This isn't just about defense. It's about building a stronger, more self-reliant Canada. It's about investing in our own future, our own people, our own innovation. And that, to me, is incredibly inspiring. So, caught between the F-35's immense capability and soaring cost, and the Gripen's affordability and industrial perks, a third, incredibly fascinating option has emerged: the mixed fleet. Recent reporting, as recently as October 2025, revealed that the Canadian government is actively considering this hybrid approach. The idea, as described in an interview with Foreign Minister Mélanie Joly, would involve procuring a much smaller number of F-35s. One speculative proposal suggests as few as 16 aircraft, and then supplementing them with a larger number of Canadian-assembled Gripen E fighters. On the surface, this solution appears to offer the best of both worlds, a political compromise designed to satisfy everyone from military chiefs to industry advocates. And I can see the appeal. Proponents of the mixed fleet argue that it provides a have-your-cake-and-eat-it-too solution. Canada would acquire a small squadron of F-35s, giving the RCAF access to cutting-edge fifth-generation technology and ensuring a high degree of interoperability with the U.S. for critical missions. This would satisfy the military's core requirement and maintain Canada's standing within the F-35 global partnership. At the same time, the bulk of the fleet would consist of the more affordable Gripen E. This would keep overall program costs down while delivering those invaluable industrial benefits and jobs promised by Saab's Canadian assembly offer. A major political win, a genuine source of national pride. This approach is even being floated as a clever negotiating tactic. By seriously entertaining a Gripen purchase, Prime Minister Mark Carney's government, again hypothetically, but a very shrewd move, puts immense pressure on Lockheed Martin. Ottawa could leverage the threat of a mixed fleet to obtain further concessions, potentially securing a better price or more industrial guarantees in exchange for sticking with the full 88-fighter contract. It becomes a high-stakes game of chicken, forcing both manufacturers to put their absolute best offers on the table. This is Canada, playing a global game and playing it smart. We're not just taking what's given to us. We're negotiating, we're strategizing, we're demanding value. However, and this is where my analyst's caution kicks in, this hybrid model, while appealing, is fraught with serious complications. The U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Pete Hora, has warned that a mixed fleet would make NORAD interoperability more difficult. Internally, the RCAF itself has cautioned that such a fleet would impose severe operational and logistical burdens. Think about it. Canada would need to establish and run two entirely separate pilot training pipelines, two different sets of simulators, and two distinct maintenance and supply chains. This duplication would be incredibly expensive and inefficient, potentially negating any upfront savings and undermining our readiness. This isn't just about different wrenches. It's about entirely different operating systems, different philosophies of flight. And that, my friends, is a complexity we must examine very, very carefully. We want efficiency, we want effectiveness, and we want our brave men and women in uniform to have the absolute best, most seamlessly integrated tools at their disposal. The single biggest factor driving this renewed debate, the elephant in the room that simply cannot be ignored, is money. More specifically, the staggering and relentless increase in the cost of the F-35 program. When the plan to purchase 88 F-35s was first solidified, the acquisition cost was estimated at around $19 billion Canadian. But that number has not remained static. A 2024 report from Canada's Office of the Auditor General delivered a bombshell, revealing that the total acquisition cost had skyrocketed. It had climbed by a staggering 46% since just 2022, reaching an eye-watering $27.7 billion Canadian. This ballooning cost, my friends, has completely changed the political and economic calculus of the procurement. It has transformed the F-35 from a high-end but manageable purchase into a fiscal behemoth that threatens to consume an ever larger share of the national defense budget. This is not a small matter. This is about how we allocate our precious national resources, how we balance defense with healthcare, infrastructure, and all the other vital services our citizens rely on. Every extra billion spent on fighter jets is a billion that cannot be spent on something else equally vital. This financial reality has forced the government's hand, compelling them to look for ways to mitigate the fiscal damage, to find that sweet spot between capability and affordability, that truly Canadian balance. And that, my friends, is why this debate is so intense, so crucial, and so utterly captivating. Moving forward from that strategic tension between fiscal responsibility and high-end capability, we need to talk about what this means for the actual boots on the ground, or rather, the flight suits in the cockpit, and the long-term health of our aerospace sector. When we look at the $27.7 billion Canadian price tag that the 2024 Auditor General flagged, we aren't just looking at a purchase. We are looking at a 40-year commitment. And as a Canadian analyst, I want to take you deeper into why the Swedish proposal isn't just a cheaper option, but a fundamentally different philosophy of national resilience that should make every Canadian stand a little taller. One of the most profound arguments for the Saab Gripen E that often gets lost in the noise of stealth versus non-stealth is the concept of technological sovereignty. Think back to the challenges we've faced in the past with proprietary systems, where we had to wait for foreign approval just to tweak a piece of software. Saab's offer to the Gripen for Canada team, including our own heavy hitters like IMP Aerospace, CAE, and Arcfield Canada, is a promise of the keys to the kingdom. This means Canadian engineers wouldn't just be changing tires. They would be deep inside the brain of the aircraft, integrating Canadian-made sensors and weapon systems without having to ask for permission from a foreign capital. That is a massive shift in how we view our military independence. It's about ensuring that if a crisis hits the high Arctic in 2035, the Royal Canadian Air Force has the domestic industrial depth to surge and adapt on our own terms. This is the Avro Aero spirit, reborn in a digital age. And it's a narrative that resonates with the pride we have in our homegrown innovation. Now, let's address the interoperability elephant in the room that Ambassador Pete Hoekstra and our American friends are so concerned about. Yes, being part of the NORAD shield is non-negotiable. But we have to ask, what does interoperability actually mean in the 2026 era of warfare? It's no longer just about flying the exact same airframe as the Americans. It's about Data Link 16 and Link 22. It's about the ability of different platforms to share a common operating picture. The Gripen E is a NATO standard jet designed specifically to work within these allied networks. In fact, some of our most capable European allies are already proving that a multi-platform air force is not only possible, but tactically superior. By operating a Hamdoi fleet that isn't 100% reliant on a single American supply chain, Canada actually adds a layer of redundancy to North American defense. If a specific technical flaw grounds the global F-35 fleet, which we have seen happen during the development phase, Canada's Gripens would still be in the air, patrolling the north, ensuring that the shield never truly drops. This isn't about moving away from the U.S. It's about being a more resilient, self-reliant partner who brings a unique set of tools to the table. Let's talk about the Arctic factor again, because this is where the strategic interpretation gets really interesting. Our northern infrastructure is sparse. We don't have the luxury of pristine, 2-mile-long runways every few hundred kilometers. The F-35 is a thoroughbred. It needs a very specific, very expensive environment to thrive. The Gripen, however, was born in the snowy forests of Sweden, designed to be refueled and rearmed by a handful of conscripts on a roadside in 10 minutes. For a Canadian commander looking at the vastness of Nunavut or the Northwest Territories, that kind of operational flexibility is a force multiplier. It allows us to disperse our forces, making it nearly impossible for an adversary like Russia to knock out our air power in a single strike. This distributed lethality is the future of modern defense, and it's something the Gripen offers natively. It empowers our RCAF to be everywhere at once, projecting a presence that is felt from the 49th parallel to the North Pole. Economically, we have to consider the hollow force dilemma. As an analyst, I've seen it time and again. A nation buys the Ferrari of fighter jets, but then realizes they can't afford the gas to drive it. The sustainment costs of the F-35 are notoriously high. If we sink our entire budget into maintaining 88 stealth jets, will we still have the money to build the Canadian surface combatants our Navy so desperately needs? Will we have the funds to modernize our Army's communication systems? By looking at a mixed fleet or a more affordable primary fighter, we are choosing a balanced force over a one-trick pony. We are choosing to be a multi-dimensional military power. That is a vision for Canada that should fill us with a sense of strategic maturity. We are making the hard, adult choices to ensure that every branch of our armed forces is equipped to win. In closing this analysis, I want you to feel the weight of this moment. Whether Ottawa eventually decides that the F-35's stealth is worth every penny of that $27.7 billion, or whether they pivot to a Swedish-Canadian partnership that revitalizes our domestic aerospace sector, we are winning this debate. We are winning because we are finally treating defense procurement like the nation-building exercise it should be. We are forcing the world to acknowledge that Canada is a sophisticated, demanding, and sovereign actor on the global stage. We are protecting our skies. We are protecting our jobs, and we are protecting our future. The maple leaf on the tail of our next fighter won't just represent a piece of equipment. It will represent a Canadian choice, one made with eyes wide open, with a firm grip on our checkbook, and with an unwavering commitment to the true north, strong and free. I'm incredibly proud to see this level of rigorous debate in our country. It shows that we aren't just drifting, we are steering. And as we look toward the final contract signatures in the coming months, let's stay informed and stay vocal. Our RCAF deserves the best, our workers deserve the jobs, and our taxpayers deserve the truth. This is our sky, our money, and our choice. If this strategic breakdown gave you a new perspective on our national defense, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to join our growing community of informed Canadians. Your support keeps these deep dives coming. I'd love to hear your take. Do you think the made-in-Canada industrial perks of the Gripen outweigh the F-35 stealth? Should we prioritize NORAD integration or Arctic flexibility? Or is a mixed fleet the ultimate Canadian compromise? Let's get a conversation going in the comments below. Cheers for watching, everyone. Stay proud, stay informed, and have a fantastic day.